Where is this thing? Come on now. Hi, everybody. Hello. Good evening.
Hi.
Hey,
I,
guys.
Hi.
Don't be so shy.
Hi.
We just had a whole discussion off camera, and I said, listen, let's come up and talk. And good evening to everybody. Happy, what is it? Friday, TGIF. And I'm joined here, as you see, with some of our viewers who comment many times and make such wonderful comments in the comment section. So we thought, why don't we bring them on the screen? And Lisa is leaving someplace. But anyway, we're going to hear from them. We have Lisa, we have Brandon, we have Jill, we have Alexis, we have Daniel here. And first, I have a question. Where are you joining in from? So folks can, kind of realize that we're all over the place. Jill, let's start with you.
So I am from Maryland, but I'm an immigrant and I am now a United States citizen. So I am from England as well, but I am an American citizen. And but immigration is a huge issue for me
And
with
let
my
me ask
status.
you, is it your first election that you're voting in or
No,
presidential?
I voted since 1992.
Okay.
I just wasn't very switched on until 2016. I was kind of
Yeah.
asleep at the wheel and
Mm.
thought that it couldn't happen, and then it did. And I've been galvanized since then.
I'm just looking for a teammate because I'm voting for the first time in the federal election in the
Oh,
president.
okay.
oh,
I'm like,
congratulations.
I want to have
Excellent.
a buddy, and everybody's already far along. And Lisa, where are you
Yeah.
in from? We know, but
I
they
am, I am tuned in from Paris, France, via Seattle, Washington. So this is my first time voting overseas as an American citizen.
and listen, you posted on Twitter, Shitter, your voting ballot. So you did get it, and you
I
voted.
received it just yesterday.
Love it, love it. Daniel, how about you?
I'm from Detroit. Born in Jersey, but I live in Detroit. I've been here since 1982.
So you're the one who was offended by Trump yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of folks were. I spoke to a couple of folks talking about how his statements about Detroit's. What did he say? He said,
Yeah, it's going to be as shitty if as U.S. is going to be as shitty as Detroit if we vote Harris.
Mm.
Yeah, interesting. Alexis,
Hi, I'm Alexis, and I too am from Maryland as well. So,
Oh, good.
yeah.
close on the screen. They're close on the map. I love it. Brandon, Chef Brandon, where are you coming from?
Oh,
Arizona.
sorry. Originally San Francisco, California.
Mhm.
In 20 years. I live here in Arizona 20 years, and I am voting a Harris Ball.
Okay, so Southern California to Arizona. So you're the swing state. Everybody sort of in those swingy states, right?
Mm.
I mean, that the states that do matter. And Lisa and I were like, we're swinging too with you guys. So what we're gonna do tonight?
Look,
Go ahead.
Kamala Harris has been to 3 restaurants in my state, in my city, that I have been to.
Good. Three.
I think that's funny. And one of them was Doug and Wolf were at a restaurant not the other day, not really far from my house.
"Wow,
That's
Great.
Lisa,
I love it.
I'm like,
That's
damn
fun.
it!
you're not just in swing state. You're like in the hot zone. Okay,
I
they come
am.
to you to restaurants and rallies, and awesome, love it. So again, what we're gonna do is we're gonna review the clips of this media blitz that has been announced earlier, and then this whole week we enjoyed Kamala Harris going to Colbert show, Tim Walz going to Jimmy Kimmel show, also 60 Minutes, which the vibe was questionable. We're gonna review it. Also the town hall yesterday on Univision, and Call Her Daddy, which we found out that there is a thing called Daddy, and we're going to review the clips and probably subscribe because it was a really good interview. And so we're going to review all that and allow you to make up your opinion. So if you have missed one interview or all of them, you're going to be caught up. Okay. So how about we start with the most recent one, which was yesterday's town hall. We enjoyed this wonderful watch party. So let's tune in to the question which I thought personally speaking, was the most touching one. It was a question asked by a woman who has long COVID, and since then she became homeless and she could not afford her treatment. Take a look.
My name is Martha. I'm 62 years old and currently homeless. In 2020, I had a heart attack. Then I got diagnosed with long COVID, which will disable me for the rest of my life. I lost my job, my income. I had no choice but to apply for Social Security disability. It's been 3 years I've been waiting for a decision. Because of no income, I lost everything. I have no health insurance. I can't get medical treatment that I need. And my question for you is, how will you help the disabled people so that they can get insurance and make America great again?
So I'm so sorry for everything you've been through. Your point about long COVID, finally, I was actually part of pushing to make sure that long COVID is now recognized under the Americans with Disabilities Act. So it is now recognized as being a disability for the purposes of allowing you and people who have long COVID to be eligible for disability benefits. And that's a very big point. As it relates to disability rights as a general matter, it's something I've worked on for years. The point just being very simple, frankly, which is that all people, regardless of disability, should have equal access to housing, to job opportunities, to education, and again, to dignity. And there's still a lot of work that we have to do in that regard. What we have to do in terms of also making sure that somebody who experiences an acute illness does not lose everything is still work we have to do. Part of the work that I've been doing and intend to do as president includes, for example, dealing with the issue of medical debt. So this is a big issue, which is people through no fault of their own experience a serious illness, and then they acquire all these bills and debt. Right now, the system is that that medical debt can be used against your credit score. Your credit score, everybody knows their credit score. It's like kind of like you know your weight, you know your credit score, right? So your credit score, as we know, will determine your eligibility for everything from a small business loan to whether you qualify for a lease on an apartment. The unfairness of it, and this is what I intend to change, is that medical debt is not a measure of how responsible you are with money. It's about the fact that you experienced an emergency for which you did not plan because you did not invite it. And then it works against people's ability to do things like get an apartment. So there are a number of issues that I think you're raising around how we have to see the full person and understand how one thing connects to another. Because as you have explained, a health issue that then results in an issue about literally housing and whether you are unhoused, an issue that is about what you qualify in terms of benefits, again, to be able to live with dignity and have a quality of life to which you are entitled after what I can tell are years of working hard.
And this way I'm back because I had to reboot and restart. Lisa, thank you for telling me. Something froze on my end. But you know what I didn't like in her question is the ending about make America great again.
I just heard that this time. I watched it last night. I just heard it. I didn't hear it yesterday, so.
Daniel, what do
I
you
heard it
think about
yesterday.
it?
I totally heard it.
Daniel, go ahead.
Well, the reason why I decided to go first on this answer is because my mother was disabled, or she is disabled. She had a pulmonary embolism. Long story short, traveled up her leg. She had a bruise, and she almost died. And at the time, she didn't have health insurance, even though the ACA was out. She just never took the time to do that, and she had to file for ACA. She didn't. She had a job, so she wasn't on Social Security yet. She ended up with SSI disability. But if I wasn't there for her, she would have probably ended up homeless. Because I take care of my mom. I'm her caretaker still to this day. She's my world. So I really feel for that woman. But the other thing is, she claims she's filed for, and she's been waiting 3 years. What she's gone through is very serious. Long COVID's like a serious debilitating disease. I don't know if she hired a lawyer or not. She should have. My mom got representation for free. Well, not for free, but she got representation, and the lawyer actually, they had to file twice, and on the second time she was approved for her SSI disability. But it's still not enough to pay the bills and stuff all on her own. That's where I come in to help with things. So, anyways, that got me very emotional just watching it that night, and I'm starting to get emotional again. So I'm sorry. Try not to cry.
But also, to think, and by the way, I'm back. I have now my phone, spotlight, whatever, internet. But what bothered me really is what I wished for. And I want to quote Terry, who joined our town hall yesterday, who said, "We wish to have a solution there. What if there was a person who could come to this lady and at least try to solve her problems and offer her something?" Because I think people would have donated. They would have, maybe doctors would have provided care. Jill, you're nodding. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm of course thinking of the 2 GoFundMes that Donald Trump set up for hurricane victims, and I tweeted several times to GoFundMe to verify that these are actually going to hurricane victims and that these aren't just some sort of front for his campaign. And basically GoFundMe never got back to me. MAGA people said, "Oh, the GoFundMes are fine." So I wonder if Harris didn't want to wade into some sort of murky waters by suggesting a GoFundMe for the lady. I don't know. People said, I think I've heard people say, "Oh, John McCain or Joe Biden would have, helped her out." But I felt like her answer was good. Her answer hit the high parts. It hit disability. It hit the fact that it's now considered long COVID as a disability, which is kind of amazing because it's a very recent illness. Anyway, I thought it was a good answer, but I agree with you that the other side are gonna question everything she does.
Absolutely. I agree. Let's check out second question. This one was by the guy who said, but wait a second, you were gifted, and we're going to review a bunch of those. 60 Minutes also addressed the issue, and I know, Lisa, you're passionate about it. We're going to get to this. He asked how come you got this, promotion, so to speak. Nobody voted for you. And then she reversed it and said, look, this is the distinction between the candidates. Take a look.
Actually, some might say, historians have said, unprecedented. And so maybe the whole situation, including your point, is a bit unprecedented. But this is an unusual time where we are literally having a choice as the American people about choosing a path, either that is about rule of law, democracy, or something that is about admiring dictators and autocracy. Did you see the most recent report about the COVID? We talked about COVID. The COVID test? The most recent report, Donald Trump, according to that report, during the height of COVID, I'm sure there are people here who have family members or friends who died. And he secretly shipped off COVID tests to Vladimir Putin of Russia. When people by the hundreds were dying every day, President Biden and I would work on it because disproportionately Latinos and African Americans were dying.
And Jill, let's continue quickly on your point. It is quite remarkable, right? That at the time, and by the way, we're not talking about test kits that he took some bunch of kids and just message them, email them, or whatever, send them with USPS to Putin. He gave them machines, and can you explain a bit more what exactly happened?
Yeah, so I don't know that the full ins and outs of it, but the understanding I have is that he sent a machine that would be the testing device, and that Putin was able to use it to benefit his people, or perhaps he was going to use it for his personal supply. But I find it abhorrent because people were literally dying, and you had rescue workers, ER people, caregivers of the disabled, people who couldn't work from home. A lot of us were able to work from home, and we're pretty much, you know, it took me like 18 months before I got COVID for the first time, because I've been able to isolate. So the idea that he had test kits, testing machines, and was able to send them to a foreign adversary. That's the problem. I think if he'd sent them to Emmanuel Macron in France, or perhaps Justin Trudeau, or literally anyone else, I think it still would have been terrible because those tests could have been used for someone. So that's my thought. Like, again, what is he getting out of it? He sent Putin tests. What is he getting out of it? Anyway, I've rambled on. I don't want to take up too much time.
It's not America first.
Go ahead.
It's not America first. And that goes into her comments about, do you want a dictator, a fascist, or do you want someone who really does want to put Americans first? And she was trying to explain to this man, I watched it last night with your watch party, so I saw the entire conversation, and she made some very valid points about what is your soul telling you to do. And in my opinion, no longer my civic duty just to vote because I'm a citizen, but I'm also now putting my morals and ethics behind them. And I've heard recently, within the last 60 days, than I've ever heard before, politics should not define us, or sorry, not divide us. We could still be friends if we have differing opinions. I've not heard that from one Democrat, one liberal. I hear it only from Republicans. And what I've said is, it's not your politics, whether you call yourself a Republican, a MAGA, or a libertarian. It is the fact that you are choosing to vote for someone who is morally and ethically compromised. And that is why we can no longer be friends.
And especially somebody who claims America first, right? And then puts America last. So always look at what people are doing instead of what they're just saying. But let's go to the next one. Let's go to Colbert. And the first video there is where he talked about manipulating civilians right now, post-hurricanes, for political reasons. Take a look.
As a cynical and corrupt luxury that people are using.
And it's crude. Have you no empathy, man?
Yes.
You know, for the suffering of other people. Have you no sense of purpose if you purport to be a leader, to understand that being a leader means lifting people up in a time of need and not manipulating them?
Which leads us basically to the same point. In the moment of crisis, now 4 years later, same story, right? Same crap, different day. Brandon, you volunteered to comment first. Go ahead.
No, I wasn't commenting on the other one, I thought.
Okay. I mean, go ahead.
I want to say something about the one you had before. How does somebody send something without somebody knowing you said something?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why didn't nobody say, hey, why is he missing? Why are all the shipment going to? Like, why is it all the interfering?
Right. No, I do agree. And I think, especially now, and that's why I put those two clips together. We see what happened with COVID. Now we see 4 years later, he's not a president anymore. He's trying to become president again. but nothing has changed. Nobody has learned anything. It's the same story, me, and everybody else comes second. Let's check out the second clip. And this one is about ending the divisive rhetoric. So now VP Harris presents the solution, how to move on from this and what would be next. Take a look.
Saying, enough of the rhetoric that's about trying to divide the country and have Americans point their fingers at each other. Folks are ready to turn the page. It's like, let's chart a new way forward. And what I'm seeing is that a lot of Americans, regardless of their party, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, they're ready for a new generation of leadership that is about solutions and common sense and finding common ground. And that is what I am offering.
And Alexis, we haven't heard from you yet. Take the lead.
I agree with what she said. She was right on point. I too am sick of all the bickering, and it's annoying. Yeah, and like myself, I'm a millennial, so I'm ready for new leadership, new generation of leadership. I think it's time for the old white, male people to retire, enjoy life, and let new people in with new ideas and go back to the way things were when I was growing up in the 90s during the Clinton years, where people were just, I'm sure there were like arguments like behind closed doors or anything, but it wasn't shown a lot on TV or anything like that. So, but I do like the fact that, she said if she's elected, she's going to put a Republican on her cabinet. And then she announced at the Republicans for Harris event in Arizona, I think. I was trying to find the recording of it on her YouTube page, but it has been posted, where she said she's planning to have create a bipartisan
think tank, like an idea
policy council or something. So, it's time to get back to all of that, because I'm tired of it. And those are my thoughts.
It's the very, and I agree with you, and thank you for sharing the thought, because it's divide and conquer is as old as time, and it's the same rhetoric, same hateful stuff. By the way, I'm going to quote all that on the actual news later today, so that's going to be a separate live stream, because we're going to reboot, and there I'm going to have the readout on that as well. So let's move to Call Her Daddy. If you didn't know, it's a podcast, okay? We're not going to watch any dildo here stories. But Kamala Harris was there talking politics. Okay, if you're not familiar, it's a young upbeat podcast, #1 among women. I think 25 to 35, and #2 podcast worldwide in the podcast world. If you didn't know about it, then join the club. I didn't know either. And so in the first question, the host asked, but are there any laws that kind of talk about men's bodies and regulating men's bodies? Take a look. Can we take a look? Am I rebooting again? Listen, this is a life thing, so anything will happen.
You have to say it out a couple times. So.
Okay, guys, stick with me. I'm going to be right back. Talk about the Call Her Daddy. I don't know. Help me out. I'm going to be right back.
Actually, I heard it changed format from being like a shock, like it was all about sexual experiences and like almost knowledgeable stuff. Huh?
It was about dating. It was about a woman's dating experience that happened to involve sex.
Okay, and then they changed format after they left that Portnoy guy from Barstool Sports. I don't like him; he's kind of annoying. But it became like more of a feminist platform, and that's when the show gained.
It was always a feminist platform.
Oh, really? See, I didn't know that.
I've never seen it, never heard about it until she did the interview, and then I did. We're not live right now, right?
Yeah.
We are?
We are. Look in your far right corner. Left corner.
All the other people who are joined in can see us? Oh, hello. Glad I asked.
Light in the last half hour, Lisa.
Thank you, Brandon. Remember the rules that I'm trying very hard not to violate. But Daniel, in answer to your question, yes, it was always feminist. And I really just learned all of this in the last 3 days because I am long past 35. So I've never seen it, never heard about it. No, but it used to be a little bit more racy, I think. But then they got a $60 million deal and they had to stop saying things as bluntly as you would normally say in just a conversation with your girlfriend, so to speak. But no, I need to check it out. Apparently, it's most watched in the demographic that Olga mentioned, and it's millions of young women watching it or listening to it.
Isn't that your wheelhouse too? Didn't you say you've studied in university? You had like women's studies as one of your majors or something?
It is. It's one of
Hey,
my 3. Yeah.
awesome.
Women's studies. But that was back in the 90s. So that was when I went to college.
Yeah, I'm 48 myself. I was supposed to go to Michigan State, but I just ended up I blew it off. So I dropped that ball.
You know what? There's a lot. I didn't understand different paths to university or different. I didn't understand different like career paths until I had kids. I always thought before I had kids, it was like, oh, everyone's going to go to college. That's it. And then you realize you're raising people who have autonomy. They want to do what they want to do, and you like that. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And so I do think there's just different ways to get where you need to be. Some people it's the academic route, and other people it's another pathway. And I think I feel like it's just important to kind of keep it open.
Jill, I have a question for you. When did you immigrate to the United States?
So I have emigrated to the United States 3 times. First, when I was 4, my dad's an engineer. We went back to England when I was 9. We came back to America when I was 11. Then I came to America as a student at 18 on an F1 student visa, and then I got a green card again. A green card again when I was 20. So we boomeranged a lot.
Thank you so much for keeping this afloat. I rebooted everything and anything. Listen, I even changed underwear, whatever is needed. Everything's fresh here. So if I disappear, thank you so much for doing this for me because listen, I'm already sweating profusely. Shall we go back to call her daddy? Let's try it. Can we call her daddy or no? Let's fingers crossed. Daddy, where are you?
And I want to pose this question more to you and the daddy gang, but one of the biggest conversations in this year's election revolves around a woman's body.
Yep.
I want to take a moment and can we try to think of any law that gives the government the power to make a decision.
I know what you're going to ask.
About a man's body. Let's
No.
No. Is there any law?
No. It's no.
Wait a second, Lisa, you're a lawyer. Are there any laws? Because when I posted this video, I got hit with comments, but wait a second, there is a draft, there is all that kind of stuff. Is that the same thing? No.
I wouldn't
No.
say so.
Absolutely not. I'm licensed in Washington State and out of the territory of Guam. And I can definitively tell you that there is not one law on our American books that regulates a man's reproductive choices, freedom, absolutely nothing.
So it's a bunch of BS. But do you learn? Because when we talked yesterday during the watch party, you said that you were all more about like women's rights and equality. Is it really that we women are sort of targeted, if you will, with laws?
Oh, you're cutting out, Olga.
Yeah, it's we've all been doing Zoom for so long, and there's this still happens, connectivity problems
Absolutely.
and
And I think this is where Olga was going, so I guess I'll answer the question. Are women being targeted? Absolutely, 100% without a doubt. We have been. We're the only group besides people of color that had to fight for the right to vote. The only group in our country that has never had to fight for the right to vote is white men. And so, yes, absolutely, we're being targeted because we happen to have vaginas. We, all men, regardless of their race, were allowed to have credit in their own name, people of color. But women didn't get that right constitutionally. And I say did, and I should have said fought for and won through the law until 1974, which was 1 year after we were blessedly given the right of Roe v. Wade to take care of our own reproductive freedom.
right.
Right. Jeez Louise.
And we're not going back.
No, we
We're
don't.
just not we're not going back. We're just not going back.
But there's so many more. We do have the term for, let's say, domestic violence, which can happen to men as well. But unfortunately, it happens to more women than it does men on an average. We didn't even have that term until the mid 80s. And so all these young people, and again, I'm only 53, I grew up in a time when that term didn't exist. I grew up in a time when my mother didn't have the right to own a home in her own name, let alone choose whether or not to have an abortion for whatever reason there may be. So when you asked Olga, do you think women are being targeted? Absolutely. We're second-class citizens. And if you happen to be a woman of color, you're even worse off. And then if you're a woman who is lower economic status, you're truly in the hole. So if you imagine a woman with any sort of disability, a woman of color, a woman who isn't financially well off, you are truly screwed in America, the land of the free, brave, and supposedly American dream.
And it's interesting that you learn about that once you live here, because it sounds so shiny and the world of possibilities, and I never listened. We had a neighbor who immigrated to Sweden, and shout out, it's Olga also from Ukraine. She immigrated way, tens, like 20, 30 years ago. And so when we talked about America, and when I said, I want to be there and live there, she's like, they don't have insurance. They don't have, safety net. You can be, let go anytime, and nobody has to obligated to pay you, right? And you kind of think that this is also normal in the EU, right? If you live in European Union, but then you're here, and it's really sort of like, yeah, you have more freedom to make whatever your company your own, because there's less
Yeah.
defense on that end, but nobody is really gonna rely on that. Jill, you're nodding, so probably England comes.
Yeah, I mean, America for my parents in 1970 when they emigrated from working class Manchester in England to New Jersey. My dad worked in New York, and my mother shared that in England, they were able to buy meat 1 day a week, and the meat that they purchased for the Sunday dinner would have to last a few days, and then the rest of the week would be potatoes or other non-meat things. When they moved to America in 1970, that my mother shared that they were able to buy meat 7 days a week. So my mother's kind of the reason we boomeranged is that my mother wanted to go back to England and be able to sell they did have a house, but sell their house in working class Manchester and move to a better house. They had the means to do that, because they had health insurance through work, and they had, my father was like, kind of headhunted or, sought after to come here as an engineer. But um, they had many friends who weren't secure enough to be able to do that, to be able to go to another country. But it's hard. It's hard living here. It's expensive. It's expensive to have a lifestyle over here. British friends for years, for literally like decades, would come to America and would come for a vacation and would buy extra suitcases, go to Costco, go to Dick's Sporting Goods, buy golf clubs, buy bedding, buy clothing to take back to England because it was cheaper over here.
Yes. Yeah.
But living over here is more expensive. Like, I've been in this country since, as an adult, 1985. I've been back to England 3 times because it's just too expensive. Flight, hotel, ground transportation, food, tourist attractions. It's expensive. It's just expensive to live in England. I don't have the money to go. It's expensive to live here. It's like a rock and a hard place type thing. But health insurance is what is really, that is a huge factor.
And also the tax is way higher in the European Union, right? That's why there's the health insurance thing. You know that what Europeans say about America is that it's very expensive to be poor in America.
Absolutely.
You're the one hit with the fees, with the late fees, with this, with that. You have the higher tax percentage. So, on that note, shall we attempt to watch another video? And if that goes south, then I will ask you to join me another day because I don't want to bother everybody and, lose. So let's try again for Call Her Daddy. Now, this time they're going to talk about Kamala Harris's mom. And what type of lessons did she taught her?
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. I know that you were primarily raised by your mother.
Yes.
Can you share with me, what values did your mom instill in you from a young age?
Well, similar to what you described about your mother, my mother definitely impressed upon us the importance of us being able to express how we were feeling. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it, I think, was also about her teaching us that we had agency. And so that things don't just happen to you. And so think about how you were feeling, not just as a way to dump, but also as a way to kind of figure out where you are in a moment, right? And center yourself. I mean, to your point, when I got older, like when I was in, late teens, my 20s, if I came home with a problem, I'm telling you, if I came home with a problem, the first thing my mother would do is she would look at me. Like other mothers, I believe, were hugging their kids and like, oh, honey, what can I do? And my mother, the first thing, what did you do? But here.
And Daniel, I was watching your face. I think, correct me, I think it's like growing up with that immigrant chip on the shoulder. What did you do? What is wrong with you? Daniel, why were you laughing? And then Jill, we're going to go to you because we planned to go with your answer.
I've never been coddled by my mom. She was really independent and tough. She's Alaskan Native, and she's very much cut from the same cloth. Very independent. No BS.
I think it's
charge.
also have to do with your generation because I grew up and we definitely, Daniel, did not get coddled. So,
Jill, what's your take?
Yeah, so I've got 3 kids and they're all in their 20s, and I just think it's really hard. Raising kids is really hard because you can't do for them. Like the expression, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. You can create all these things for your kid, but if they don't really want to do the work, but you also have to be there to support them, but also let them fly. Like I would say that I'm some version of a hovering helicopter mom at times, And then I'm some version of more letting them be themselves at other times. But it's just hard. And I see what she's saying. You know, sometimes there is you can't let the kids wallow in sort of self-pity, but you also have to understand when you need to just be like a sounding board, you know,
Yeah.
and just be there for them. It's hard. Yeah.
It is. I remember, I grew up in Germany. I remember my dad, for instance, telling me, I was upset that I couldn't go to somebody's birthday and I was a professional athlete. And he's like, you're not like everybody. And I said, what do you mean? It's like, you have to work harder. You have to do everything, twice as good just to be seen and whatnot. And certainly this was in Germany and they have their own understanding. But Alexis, what's your take on it? How was your journey growing up? Cuddles, non-cuddles? How was it?
It was cuddles, yeah. It was cuddles, yeah. But I mean, it was, they did ask, if I did something wrong, what did you do and stuff like that. So if it was my fault, I'd get punished. If it wasn't my fault, you said, well, you learned your lesson and stuff like that. So yeah.
So that's good. That's moderate. Now, next thing, we're jumping into the 60 minutes. And I think we can agree it was kind of an interesting vibe there, to put it a certain way. First clip is when she was asked whether Netanyahu is our biggest ally. Take a look.
Do we have a real close ally in Prime Minister Netanyahu?
I think, with all due respect, the better question is, do we have an important alliance between the American people and the Israeli people? And the answer to that question is yes.
Lisa, did she nail it?
Absolutely. She nailed it. And she couldn't, that was the answer. I have nothing to add. It's not about who's ahead of the country, who is currently running the country or the face of it. It's the people of that country. And America has always stood strong with Israelites, and we always will, I hope. Netanyahu, not so much, I hope. I think he is Trump in better health.
Yeah. Younger. Younger.
Yes.
Still the same legal problems.
But, her answer was spot on, short, sweet, nothing more to add to that. And I think this interviewer, I hesitate to call him a journalist, it was a crap question. It was a gotcha question. And his framing was very telling. How does the U.S. feel about Netanyahu? Well, he happens to be running a country right now. It should have been, if that question would be reversed, someone in the European Union saying, how do you feel about, is President Biden an ally? No, you never hear that. Is American an ally? And yes, Israel is an ally of the United States, as we are theirs.
I mean, to quote Biden, he said that Netanyahu is the most right-wing regime he's ever had to deal with in Israel. And he goes way back. It's like, listen, I've been through and I've dealt with all kinds of administrations, but this one in particular, right? Again, Jill, to your point, same legal problems as Trump. He's facing a court hearing in December unless they are in state of war. So this is all part of prolonging this. But let's check out
I didn't know that. I didn't know that he wasn't going to be dealt with legally. I didn't realize he had the cover of the country being in war. Oh, okay. So he has no incentive.
No.
Okay, I had missed that. Oh, wow.
Yes, that explains the prolonging. Now let's check out the clip that most haven't seen. So this was posted on 60 Minutes YouTube, 60 Minutes Overtime. And just check out, it's 1.5 minutes. I'm not going to preview, just watch it.
With only 4 weeks to go until Election Day and mail-in ballots already being marked, we watched as they campaigned, making their appeal to voters Harris otherwise could have met months ago during a more traditional election cycle. Was democracy best served
by President Biden stepping down and basically handing you a nomination. You didn't have to go through a primary process. You didn't have to fight off other contenders. That's not really the way our system was intended to work.
President Biden made a decision that I think history is going to show is rare among leaders, which was to put country before self. And I am proud to have earned the support of the vast majority of delegates and to have been elected the Democratic nominee. I am proud to have received the endorsement of leaders around this country from every background and walk of life to fight in this election over the next month for our democracy.
But I think this truncated process is why people think or say they don't really know who you are.
Look, I've been in this race for 70 days. It is without any question a short period of time, which is why I'm traveling around our country from one state to the next to the next.
Okay, I want to put Alexis on the spot. Sorry, Alexis. Have you heard anybody say, we don't know who Harris is? Ever? No?
No, I've never heard anybody say we don't know her.
Right? I mean, like, what is this thing? We don't know. That's why we don't know who you are. She's been vice president for
years.
For 3
for 3.5 years, and she's second in line to the presidency. You know, so I was pretty shocked by that question about, it sounded like he felt like she didn't earn it or something. Like they should have, we should have gone through, an open convention, which would have caused so much chaos. I recall in some interview where somebody said, he remembers some of those open conventions that happened in the past. There was one in 1980, and then there was one in, I think, in 84, and and look what, and he said, and then look what happened. We had 8 years of Reagan, so that's why they, and I think they made a good point of that we shouldn't go down that path. I think that if in Biden's decision to step away, I think he wanted to make sure that the party would unite behind Vice President Harris.
Right.
Because I think if they didn't, he would not have stepped down. That's my belief. Because I was just amazed. Because within 20 minutes of what was it, like 20 some minutes after he announced he was stepping aside, he went in and he endorsed Kamala Harris, and boom, everybody came together. It was amazing. So that's my thing, and I think it was just a stupid question. I don't know what has gotten into these reporters these days. They're not asking reasonable questions. I mean, they're just it's just I don't understand. I mean, the only broadcast journalists I trust now is like Rachel Maddow and Lawrence O'Donnell. The only two people I trust now, because they seem to know their stuff. So I didn't like the question.
There were so many things wrong with this question. It's not democracy best served. It was handed to this truncated process.
Yeah,
and the key thing, this person asking the question was, it was all gotcha, but he said, this is not how it's done. Well, you know what else hasn't been done before in an election? A convicted felon.
That's the other
an
thing.
An adulterer on the ticket, an adjudicated rapist on the ticket, a failed person on the ticket. All of these things, not to mention the number one fact, she was on the ticket that was in the primaries.
Right. We were voting for the
Biden.
We were voting for
Harris ticket.
Yeah.
So just like if Biden, God forbid, if something would have happened to him during office, Harris would have taken over. She
Yeah.
could be president right now.
I agree. Daniel, go
honestly,
ahead.
You know, this
and
whole
honestly, I think it's to do with the mainstream media is hanging on by a thread. They need Trump to be crazy and ridiculous because they need to sell newspapers, online subscriptions, and what they're not realizing is that like Olga is doing her thing in a different way.
Yeah.
You're completely doing the social media thing. There's a group of people on TikTok, and it's so like, okay, they need to Maggie Haberman and the whole crew need to get out of their own way because they're missing the point. They keep on saying, we know who Kamala Harris is, because we're listening to her, you know, and just listening to what she says.
Right.
Yeah, and I think this media thing that she's not going on NBC News or, you know, CBS News or whatever, is smart because these voters, they're not watching the news.
Yeah.
You know, they're listening to podcasts and finding other news sources to watch because they're just
it's
different. They don't know how to do it's different. They don't know how to do their job. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Daniel, you were so passionate. Let me get Daniel through because he was so passionate and he couldn't get a word in. Go ahead.
Well,
Sorry.
I was agreeing with the points that Lisa and Jill are making. And, you know, Alexis as well. Y'all make fine points. I was just being enthusiastic because, like, a convicted felon, 34 felonies. That has never happened before. What in God's name? Why are we even here? You know, we know why we're here. The Supreme Court covered his ass. Jesus Christ. There's so many different aspects of how we've gotten into this position. But he should have been Mitch McConnell. Remember, he will be held accountable. What? That never happened. Ever. So
I think Alexis said it best. We need to get rid of these old white men. And you know what? As far as I'm with Bonnie and the AG in New York, and now we've got we have 2 strong Black women attorneys in 2 states prosecuting his ass. We've got Kamala, who is of mixed race. White women need to put the shit out and let women of color take over because clearly they're doing far better job of holding orange Jesus accountable than we have been in a very long time. But on to the journalistic point, I only found Olga after Harris had been endorsed by Biden. And I'll tell you, every election I have voted in, Clinton twice, or Hillary twice, I have been active in every presidential election since I was 18 years old, and I'm now 53. I was then after 2016. I barely voted for Biden. When all of it went down, I was ready to step back. I stopped listening to MSNBC, NBC, CNN, which used to be, for me, valid news sources. I had the New York Times for 34 years. I got rid of them in July, got rid of WAPO in July. I haven't watched CNN and MSNBC for at least 7 years. I found Olga because she sent out a tweet on Shitter. She was getting some crap from someone, trying to explain to somebody why she doesn't spin and try to get clickbaits. She said, I'd rather take the time and be last and be right and accurate in my reporting. And I was like, you can't be real. So I did some research, and it's 4:18 a.m. in Paris right now. And I'm up doing this because I'm now getting the news primarily from Olga. And I watch her streams when I can. And she's provided me more information in the last 60 days than I could get if I sat and read all of the mainstream and legacy media. They're tanking it. what was that you posted, Olga, yesterday about
the New York
the New
Times,
York Times
where
article?
right after the quite successful, and by the way, thank you so much for saying that. That's what keeps me doing all this crazy stuff. But and every Friday I'm about to throw up because I was like, enough, 2 days,
Oh,
nothing.
I should say I'm not getting paid for this either. So just so
Exactly.
people see it, no one's getting paid. It's all volunteer.
Right. And so, what you're referring to, it was the thing with the unjustly detained folks coming back from Russia, and where
Mhm.
we had embargoes on the information, and every single outlet tried to either kind of sidestep. Reuters completely violated the embargo when the plane was in the air, not even landing in Turkey yet, which was the embargo, right? Because they leave from Russia from different parts, Siberia and different, and so they have to land in Turkey, meaning that okay, they are already out of Russia. So for that one, you can announce it because then they can go to Germany. The Morza, he went to Germany with another guy, and others came to Washington D.C. to join base Andrews. And so Reuters violated it when the planes was in the air before landing in Turkey. They already announced it. Then others started like hinting on it. And that's when I posted, I said, listen, I'm not going to say anything. I want to see that they have arrived first, and second, that they're alive. Anything can happen on board. And when people's lives are at stake, and this is so many topics that have this factor, Israel, Ukraine, anything Russia related, their people's lives are at stake. So why are you doing the clickbait crap? But to the point of misinformation, yesterday I posted the New York Times thing right after the town hall. They went in and they said Harris shows the consequences of living apart from her father, who's like distanced, but he only lives 2 miles away, and so she shows now the signs of growing up without a father. And I'm like, how dare you? Look at Donald Trump, where his mother said that when he was born, and she showed him as a baby to Fred Trump, he said, oh, it's a dummy. And since then, he called him a dummy every day. Come on.
What Alexis is saying, she's right. The younger generation, and even I guess now I'm middle aged, we are not watching the legacy media. But I did talk to my pseudo mom, who's in her 70s, who's more liberal than I am, begged her to dump New York Times, and she absolutely refuses to do it. She doesn't believe what's printed in it. It used to be the pillar, and I'm sure you as a journalist, when you started out, I don't know, I won't speak for you, but probably that's
the highlight. Yeah, that's the standard.
And like Alexis said, they're not asking the pertinent questions. They're fear mongering, and they've been doing it since 2016. I mean, a couple years before that, when Hillary first announced it in 2015. It's someone wrote on Twitter today, one of the accounts I follow, and he said, "I really hope they're purposely gaslighting it." And what else can it be?
Exactly.
And you're gonna hope.
Wait a minute. Gaslighting about Kamala's father? What were you saying? Gaslighting?
Oh, because people keep saying they're trying to, they're spinning this all. They're showing Trump's rallies, they're not showing Harris's rallies. Everything they say about Harris is negative. Like, oh, you just got this handed to you, or back, these stupid ass questions. And how are we do? Who's gonna get the money from that? From these clickbait things. It's
the media.
What is their audience? They're turning into faux news, and when I say faux news, I mean Fox News, and they're not doing the job of the fourth estate, which is what it was intended to do. The fourth estate is supposed to keep in check
one of my
branches of our government.
One of my all-time favorite questions from her campaign was Stephanie Rule on the interview that she did with Kamala Harris, and she said, "Quick fact check, quick yes or no. Have you and she's saying this to Kamala Harris, have you at any time served 2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce on a sesame seed bun? Because she had to address that because the Fox News people are saying that she didn't work at McDonald's. I'm about the same age as Harris, and I worked at a supermarket, and I was paid in like cash money, like literal like cash money. There's literally no record. No one probably has a record of me working at a supermarket in England in 1984. Ditto, no one has a record, but they've just basically said it didn't happen, and she's just like, yeah, I did the fries,
But
and
why
she was
are we
able to.
spending time giving a shit what type of job she
Ridiculous.
had at 17?
And she had a good spin on it because she basically said she was working at McDonald's and she was a kid, like a 18, 19-year-old, but there were people who were working at McDonald's who were trying to raise families.
Right.
They're trying to. They're working at McDonald's and Walmart. I mean, they're not picking up on that. And the other thing that it drives me berserk is when the Fox News people talk about her word salads, which means that she takes a while to get to the point. Hello, I ramble constantly.
Do you ever listen to
And
Trump?
also, Donald Trump is insane. Windmills, turbines. I don't know. Sorry, I just felt like that was that. I know that wasn't one of the clips you had, but
Yeah.
the
No,
gaslighting is very
big.
shocking.
And I have for actual news, which I think I'll do tomorrow morning, given the internet. But
Mhm.
there are a lot of former President Obama who really talked about it a lot in his rally yesterday. So let's review. Fingers crossed for the internet gods. Let's review Tim Walz because he did a good job. I don't like how they portrayed him on 60 Minutes because that was like, oh, and here's funny guy who misspeaks. Speaking of GMA, he did this morning. He did a GMA interview ahead of coming to the high school that he coached to their championship, and so he spoke to Michael Strahan. Take a look.
Former President Trump said something that within your debate they were saying that, hey, these are policies that Kamala Harris could have done 3 years ago when she was in the White House with President Biden, and she never did. What do you say to people who bring that up, who say that?
Well, Donald Trump had 4 years to do it, if you're going to talk about that. And what the point is, you need a partner in Congress. You've seen these. We've seen different bills that are ready to pass, and Donald Trump makes sure he steps in. We saw it around immigration, a bipartisan bill, widely respected, wanting to make a difference in this, holding true to our values, securing the border. Donald Trump steps in and says, look, that's going to hurt my political future. Let's not make it happen.
Let's talk about your record.
So, an interesting interview. I think we can quote the guy who went viral with his clip talking about civics, who said, no, VP is there to support and do what the president tells you to do. And I think Keith made a point in the comments earlier that we haven't really heard much about Harris for 3 years, right? And because why? Not because Biden was hiding her, because media decided not to talk about her. Because this way, and I can tell you from the inside, if Harris would have been described as an overachiever or an achiever itself, by now she would have been so strong that it wouldn't have been 50-50 with Trump. But because she had to be that, hidden figure, and now we're still like, oh, who is she? We're learning about her. If everything would have been as covered as it is now, Trump would have been far away from being the nominee itself. But anybody wants to take on this one?
Yeah, definitely. Because there are 3 jobs under the Constitution that our vice president is responsible for. That is bringing a tie vote in the House, in the Senate, presiding over the Senate, and certifying the presidential election results. That's it under our Constitution. And in my lifetime, with the several vice presidents we've had, I can tell you when they go to some lesser known head of state's funeral, and that's about it.
Yeah.
We don't hear about Dan Quayle anymore. I couldn't even tell you who Hillary Clinton's vice presidential running mate was. I know it was a white guy.
Tim Kaine.
But I will also tell you this. I think the Democrats, the Harris Walls campaign is failing on this issue because it keeps getting, beat against him. He's been in there for 2 years. Why? The reason is, first of all, the vice president doesn't have the powers of the president. Second of all, and more importantly, they act like Biden has a checkbook in the Resolute desk in the Oval Office that he can just whip out and write a check anytime he wants. We have two branches in the House, Congress, the House and the Senate. I learned this at the age of 5 through Schoolhouse Walks. I'm just a bill. And how a law gets made.
I remember that.
And it's very simple. It's less than 3 minutes. It has to have an idea. Oh, I want to make this a law. It has to go through the House. It has to go through the Senate. And then it goes to the president's Resolute desk. And there, hopefully, her pen can then sign it into law. The reason
There's such a lot of there's such a lot of kind of
not been able to get most of their packages passed is because we have a Republican House that at every turn is saying nope, and then we've got Orange Jesus on the phone saying block this bill, block the border bill, block that. But it all comes back to us. We are not getting that message out. People don't have basic civics anymore, apparently, because either they choose to be willfully ignorant or they actually are ignorant through just genetics.
Yeah.
And
it's like the group of people who say
I hope that Harrison Walls just say refer them to the Schoolhouse Rocks video on YouTube and say this is how a bill is made.
Jill, go ahead. No, I agree.
I was just going to say I watch a lot of documentaries, and I watched a documentary about Y2K, which for those of you, some of you are too young. It was the time between 1999 and 2000 when computers could only go to 99, and so it was a big deal. It turned out to be a nothing burger, literally, but there was a clip in the video that was hilarious. It's Bill Clinton and Al Gore. Al Gore was the vice president. They're sending like a cable into the roof of a school because it was like the start of the internet was still in its infancy. Clinton, as the president, is at the top of the ladder. Al Gore is down below, fishing up, holding this cable to give it to Clinton to send it through the. So that kind of gave me a perspective. The president does all the work. The vice president goes to state funerals, certifies the election, votes as the deciding vote. So I feel like Waltz kind of missed an opportunity to kind of poke fun of it himself. He could have said, yeah, and I'm going to be in the office for 4 years and nobody's going to know what I do,
There was one powerful vice president, though, Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney had a lot of cachet because Bush was stupid, and Dick Cheney actually pretty much ran the Bush.
Oh, absolutely, he did.
Oh, yeah, he did.
Yeah. So I just have one other thing to add to that. I have on my feed that I just found the other day, and it's from 1980, and I was 9 years old. It was the debate between Reagan and Bush when they were opposing each other.
Oh.
And it's about immigration. They're both, for those of you who don't know, both Republicans. Reagan became president. Bush then became his vice president. And then, of course, Bush became president for 2 more terms after that. So the debate, nicest, most professional, and they're not demonizing migrants. They're saying they need health care. They're saying that they need to be able to pay taxes in that country. But I encourage everyone to try to dig that up because that's Republicans. That's the Republican Party I grew up under, and I thought they were really horrible then. But if I had to resurrect Bush's dead body, Reagan's dead body, Nixon's dead body, and combine them to one to get rid of this current Republican Party, I'd take it any day of what we have right now. It is unprecedented. And that is what we have never had before. Not someone who bypassed a silly primary where she was already on the ticket. That is absolutely ludicrous.
Yeah.
I agree. Let's finish up with the very last clip. That's Tim Walz. Yesterday, he was, or a day before yesterday, he was on Jimmy Kimmel. It's sort of a funny thing. Just listen to it. He almost misspoke, and then Jimmy helped him out. And that will be our last clip. Take a look.
So it is something. It probably was in the back of his-
self-preservation mode. Yeah. No, it's very surreal to sit there and listen. And this is kind of the situation we're in. But I said, for me, being an eternal optimist, I always say that. I supervise the high school lunchroom. You're an optimist or you're dead. And I loved it. But this idea that, look, we get to turn the page on that. And I plan on waking up on November 6th with Madam President. And then that will be
This should be. I just want to be. I want to be clear. You won't be waking up together. No, unless you guys have gotten closer than we thought.
I have a problem about not being specific with my language, so thank you for that. Specifically right. So.
Almost, went viral for all the wrong reasons. Anybody, go ahead, comment.
Lay off the champagne.
You know what?
Did you say Daniel?
Horrible guy. Yeah, Alexis. He's an.
I didn't hear you, Daniel.
Huh?
Yeah.
I didn't hear you, Daniel.
Oh, I said lay off the champagne.
He is. I couldn't have picked Tim Walz out of a lineup 2 months ago, and everything you learn about this guy just makes me want him to continue to serve our country on my behalf. I love his family. I think his wife is amazing. His daughter Hope, she's just a crack up in the videos I've seen. But again, I didn't know anything about him, and now I can't find out more. And he's we used to call him unpolished candidates when they were crass. He's not crass. He's just normal. He doesn't have any stocks and bonds. He doesn't even own a piece of real estate. He is the most relatable candidate I've ever seen in my lifetime since I've been voting. And there's three things that he has misspoke, truly misspoke, not lied about, but misspoke. I carried a gun in war. He meant I carried a weapon of war. Mm-hmm. What specific date was in China in 1989. Yeah. And there's one other tiny thing. 3.
He was like
shooters, friends with the
school. They keep harping.
He was command sergeant major in the National Guard.
Oh yeah.
He didn't
no.
take the test or something. He didn't take the test to be, so technically he's a sergeant major, but
my point being is that this man who's been in our Senate, who is the current governor of Minnesota, has misspoke 3 times.
Yeah.
We have Orange Jesus, who basically, when he opens his mouth, not one word, nothing. Every day, multiple times a day.
Yeah.
And we're getting ticked off because Walt accidentally slept with the vice president.
No, but that's the thing, because he speaks something normal, and then when he misspeaks, you can see it. If you listen to Trump's rally, and I listened yesterday, I listened today, all of it is. You can't pick any nonsense out of it because all of it is nonsense.
Absolutely,
laughing.
And Trump has said some horrible things. I mean, like 8 years ago, 7 years ago. I want to say he was still running. He said something in a rally where he said something about police officers manhandling people who had done crimes into police vehicles, and he says, if you bash that guy's head into the top of the car, if you're the police officer and that's okay. I mean, it was just like, it was, we didn't know him. We know why is he still around? What is
that's the big one.
Tim Walz today tweeted out, they were talking about manufacturing jobs, and Vance and Orange Cheeses are out there talking about all these manufacturing they're going to do. And Tim Walz sent out a tweet today and said the only thing that Trump and Vance manufacture is bullshit.
Yeah.
And I want the t-shirts.
I like
it. Absolutely true.
On this note, on this note, I don't want to overstay anybody's welcome, but I want to ensure that everybody gives a follow to all of our wonderful folks who are here. Okay, Brandon left, but please follow Brandon too. But let's go in full screen. Here's Lisa. Follow FEMLFM. Okay, FEMLFM.
It's feminist, and then my initials.
See, boom. Go ahead, follow Daniel. Well, you like his handle. Dan dislikes Elon. That's one of the best handles. So go ahead and follow Alexis. Jazzy Diva. She comments always. It's first time we saw each other. And so lovely to have you here. Jazzy Diva. Go ahead and follow Jill. Musings from me. Love it. So we were talking about Twitter shitter, by the way. So that's what we're talking about. And I want you all to go read our newsletter. It's free. Go ahead. I'm going to go live tomorrow morning with the better internet. I don't have nerves, and probably you don't have nerves too for actual news, but everything is ready. And most of it was in the newsletter today. So if you haven't checked it out, go ahead. It's here, onest.substack.com. A lot of it is in the newsletter. I'm going to show some clips, and we're going to talk about actual news tomorrow morning. But please go ahead. Please like this video. Please follow these wonderful individuals. And I'm very grateful for you for joining, but also for staying here, for helping me out with all the internet crazy stuff, and for being so, being you, which is really, really important. And
Olga, I want to thank you for your journalistic integrity and making me believe in media again, and giving me an excellent source to get much needed information, in particular right now during this crucial election. So thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
Thank you, guys. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, everybody.
You're one of the things that I go, one of the accounts that I go to because of your actual news. I just need kind of like the snippets. I might not follow what's going on in Afghanistan, but then you'll post something and I'm just like, oh, I do a bit of a dive, and then it's good. It's a lot. Too many of the accounts I follow have spin. There's a spin in them. What's the person after? Like, why are they doing this? Why are they saying this?
And that's what I'm trying to stay away from, because I don't think that, let's say you're pro-Harris and you're a Democrat. It doesn't mean that you always have to love and admire everything they're doing, because then this is the same type of, cherishing somebody for too much. Those are elected officials. And the job, my job, is to hold them accountable, but also to present to you whether they're focusing on what they promised to you when you elected them, right? And vice versa. And I think, Lisa, to your point, now is an important time. But once the election is over, it will be very important, because if Harris wins, which we all hope, will be the case. Exactly. All the fingers and toes crossed, and ears and everything. Eyelashes too. Don't forget those. She will be harassed for 4 years as a president, just trying not to make her run again in 4 years. And so all of this will be dismissed as much as it's now. Or it's a word salad. It's all of this. If Trump wins, then what is real information? Then you have to fact check the White House.
Right.
That is a scary solution. So, we're just like sort of preparing for it. Daniel's handle. We're asking Daniel's handle here. Dan dislikes Elon. That's his handle.
Hang on, keep it up for just a second.
That's great.
That's a very easy handle. And now you get praise, guys. Kelly was here last time. Kelly, hey, she says, great job. Thank you. Keith says, great job, panel. Yes, we did it. Paul says, Olga, you need an app. We have an app, actually. Yeah, your own app. Yes, we do have, and this will be very soon. Absolutely. Obama got hell. It will be much worse for her. Yes, Keith, I absolutely agree. Obama got hell, but also it will be way, way worse because it just, the better she gets on the media with answers, the more hatred she receives. So just imagine what that's going to be. It will be same as with FEMA. Don't trust FEMA. They're going to take your house. Now, don't trust Harris. She's going to take your house and your everything. And so with actual news that I prepared for tonight, which we will have tomorrow morning, the rhetoric changed with Trump rally today.
Okay.
It was as evil. It was as motivational. He said Democrats are the scum. We need to fight them. Don't feel bad if you hurt them, if you see somebody wearing Harris Walls merch. All of that was literally as January 6th.
Wow.
And it starts now. And so, and I saw some guys who I follow sharing like, hey, just to be aware, they mean us, right? That's the scum. Right. That's who you're going to be fighting. And just not to be afraid or anything. But if you can report this is hate speech. This is aggravated, and it's motivation to assault people. This is not okay. None of it is okay.
No.
So let's be careful as to where it leads to. It's not just the lies of Hannibal Lecter. It's worse now. It's very strategic. So for that reason, anyway.
That's very terrifying. I heard that people who are wearing false merchandise, he's encouraging them to attack them, not verbally. So I thought he would wait until after the election to ramp up the violence, physical violence, but obviously it doesn't look like it.
Yeah. Well, you're asking YouTube channel is Onest Network because we will be, if you'd never joined.
Good. Yeah.
We have plans. We're gonna have more female journalists joining and covering what I cover in English, but in different languages. So we're expanding in that regard. So Onest Network is ONEST Network. Follow it, and Onest Press is me personally. So we'll continue with that. And I think we have to prepare first to vote, but second, when it comes to media and you're on the right side of history, prepare to cover starting November 5th. Literally in a different way, like very, very assertive as to what we say and not falling for the okie dokes. Totally. Paul says, I'm convinced we're going to see a lot of interference at polling sites in a strategic few districts and swing states in particular. Yes, absolutely. And it absolutely will not be Democrats interfering. Yeah. He says, I agree.
I just did a phone bank where I basically called Arizona and I made 37 calls, and 25 of them were leaving messages about people sending in their mail-in ballot. And that was exactly what that was. All the phone bank was about, is just giving the message, send in your ballot so that you don't have to do the polling. That's what I'm saying,
I was just on a live webinar with the attorney Mark Elias, who is one handling all the election interference cases. And Olga, if you're not following him for that type of information, you should. He was discussing about courts are handling and the law enforcement aspect of it are gearing up for potential violence on November 5th. How many attorneys around the country are getting ready to file emergency motions to stop ballot counting or get it counting because of people physically interfering and people being able to vote? It's a very real concern. And I have said it till I'm blue in the face. We are not going to be done by November 5th. We won't know by even November 6th.
I hope January 20th. That's, I hope. I hope.
Yeah, well, it's like December something is when the
Electoral
electors
College
do
doesn't
something.
vote until the 16th or the 17th of
Yeah,
December.
yeah, you're right. You're right.
And so,
say something. No?
you know, it's not, we're not done. I mean, please, everybody vote immediately if you can. Do early and mail-in voting, get them in. But we're far from over, and I don't want to kill anybody's joy, but it's gonna drag out a bit, and
Yeah.
we're gonna just have to hang in there.
Yeah. Alexis, you want
Yeah.
to say something, and then we round it up. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say I'm gonna sign off. Sign off now. So it was.
We're
good to
all
see
gonna
everybody.
sign off. So thank you everybody for joining. See you tomorrow for actual news, and thank you for this wonderful panel for joining. Thank you, Brandon, who left us a bit early, but thank you guys, and see you tomorrow. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Take care, everyone.
Yeah, that was fun.